international award-winning architectural practice with one purpose: to design the best buildings, places, and spaces in the world. This practice was founded in Madrid in 2005 by a group of 7 partners who studied and worked together in the Superior Technical School of Architecture of Madrid. Nowadays, they have spread their offices to 4 different cities: Wellington, Sydney, Albacete, and Boston, with over 20 architects and designers. Their philosophy is to challenge and exceed the client's brief and provide innovative and sustainable solutions that are both delightful and especially inspiring. They are excited about the discovery of new materials and new ways of putting things together. This team also strives to work with artists and craftsmen to achieve a seamless product. They have worked on their own idea of new workplaces to evolve the conventional idea of office fit-outs to a more sophisticated concept of workspaces. Specifically, they believe workplace design can create a more productive, flexible, and efficient environment that supports modern ways of working, and it encourages interaction with the clients. They understand the need for a variety of spaces that include formal and brilliant meeting areas, including vibrant communal break spaces, collaborative workspaces, and quiet rooms for concentrated individual work. Their main clients span the public sector, including Pamplona City Council in the northern part of Spain or the city of Sydney in Australia. They also work with private individuals and organizations, like the Hudson Foundation. The Lemony Pear's portfolio of works includes public buildings such as libraries, art galleries, civic centers, auditoriums, as well as private buildings, as bespoke and prefabricated houses and apartments. These areas of work span across listed buildings, green belt, conservation areas, and UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Since the beginning, the Lemony Pear has been awarded with different recognitions, such as Enrique Mirage's Prize for Young Architects and Mies van der Rohe Award for Contemporary Architecture, and their works have been well documented in numerous prestigious publications. Let's meet these members. Wally César Zúñiga, Rehabilitation Manager. Pablo Prades, Consultant. Teresa Martínez, Facade Designer. Miguel Malato, Team Leader. Natalia Macías, Graphic Designer. And Raquel Corneliano, Technical Designer. Sadly, Laura Laje, the other founder of the practice, cannot be with us today because she's in Dublin giving a lecture about her latest project, a barrier library with a radically new style within the field of high-tech architecture. The most innovative concepts of this library include the great presence of natural light, possible thanks to a double high level and an English garden, and the creation of a great forecourt next to the building. This project is still under construction. Well, I think it's time to learn something more about other of your projects. Okay, let's start with the interview. Wally, can you talk us about some of your proposals?
Yeah, of course. Our project option was to create a perfectly designed box surrounded by an open public space and superbly suited to the urban context. The building would have been located on top of a cliff overlooking Arga River by Moneo's Royal Archive. Given the importance of the culture and tradition in the city, the integration of the 16th century city wall in the project was something to take into account. This is the starting point. From here, a private court emerges underground.
Sorry for the interruption. I would like to point out that we had an intense debate about the starting point of our project.
Yeah, it was actually quite a problem, but it took us actually unsociable hours to solve it, but I believe we made the right decision. Well, going on with the description, I would like to say that the library opens to the public space with a 3-story window that looks to the river on the foreground and the mountains on the background. Completing the site, there is a public plaza treated as a green zone that emerges directly from the river into the library. The building is centered in a natural platform, surrounded by riverbank vegetation. The newly designed park respects an existing walkway that accompanies the wall along its length. 2 courts appear alongside the library. The deepest one is in direct contact with the lowest level. providing it with light and a more private space to read, while the other court is conceived as a children's play area. In between these two spaces, a vault-like volume rises 3 stories, built almost entirely of local brick. The eastern and western elevation also feature small openings covered with glare-free glass, mounted into a metal framework that serves as a support and also as a connection between the glass and brick. The main window is on the northern side of the building, which opens to the landscape and introduces light into the interior.
I can see that the city contest was very important for the project, but what about the interior and distribution?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because there are 4 levels inside. One of them is underground, and they generate the interior space. The lowest floor is in the main zone of the library. It includes the reading cell, the desking system, and the perimeter vitrine that separates the private court from the interior, whilst allowing light to bathe the inner area. The underground level is connected with the access floor via a ceremonial stair that flows in the main direction of the volume. Another connection with the upper levels is obtained with a triple height that creates a flowing continuous vertical space. The overground floors are distributed in horizontal trays, whose purpose is to allocate the different parts of the required program. The exposition zone and the children's library on the access floor, the researchers area on the second floor, and the cafeteria with its storage system on the topmost floor. The rest of the program, the book deposit, and the administration is located on the lowest level.
Are you satisfied with the result?
I believe we are, yes, because the project actually fulfilled every requirement that was presented with a new opportunity for the city, becoming not only a library, but also a city hub. Sadly, the basis of the competition changed midway, so we were forced to modify the project. So now I think Pablo can explain the rest of the actual library in Pamplona.
Yes, well, as he said, I'm Pablo. I became part of the studio in 2017. The client's brief in the public competition in 2018 was to design a library due to the lack of cultural institutions in the area. In the search to meet this brief, the practice aim was no other than to redefine the public and private space concept, while innovating with the use of energy-friendly and cost-efficient materials and construction systems. The importance of both lighting and acoustic isolation was a pillar of the design, as the architecture plan was to recreate the perfect conditions for reading or studying, as well as for co-working. The library stands on the edge of a cliff, in a clearing, which once was a parking, residing on an uneven terrain surrounded by the defensive wall of Pamplona, built in the 16th century. It is a remarkable position due to the use of the art gallery. The building is designed as a U-glass box arranged at right angles around a beautifully landscaped garden. The change in the scale and material between interior and exterior distinguish the public and private space with the use of laminated glass for the first and wood for the second. Diagonal beams from the structure in the metal U-profiles with the U-glass are built. Inside, a 4-story core is suspended by svelte pillars, being connected by a central shaft and a lateral staircase to the exterior.
Might I add something? Actually, I never fully understood why did you hide the exterior building structure.
Well, that's a very good question. My intention was to give the impression that from the exterior the building was levitated. That's why I decided to cover the perimeter with a glass curtain hiding the circular concrete pillars. Continuing the description, the library has a public space that runs on the limits of the proposal. And a central section which envelopes the private and silent rooms. At street level, a 4-story hall with co-working areas and a wide selection of other amenities, including a coffee shop and a playground for kids. Following this space, the main body of the library is reached by a monumental staircase and a glazed lift shaft, which connects with the different levels. The library's exterior is a vigorously modeled combination of a steel structure and transparent panels in order to improve the interior lighting. The singularity of the library is its property of holding silent and co-work rooms in one unique space. At the same time, it gives you a green area to the city.
Why did you opt for using the U-glass?
Well, my intention was to design a permeable facade. So I was trying to let as much light in inside as possible. That is why I opted for a solution with reinforced tempered glass on concrete frames with elastic sealants in the joints.
Did you use different materials between exterior and interior for any particular reason?
Yeah, I wanted to highlight the difference between the exterior and interior as a metaphor to the distinctive uses. So the tinted glass as an extroverted element referring to the blue, and the chemical treated oak wood for a much more personal environment for studying individually.
This morning we visited the graphics. Let's watch the videos with it.
Good evening, I'm Teresa Martinez. I'm one of the founders of the Lemony Pear architecture practice. Now I'm going to explain our project in Canlis, the context and how it was developed. Canlis is a house built by John Hudson in Mallorca in 1972. Since 2011, the Danish Arts Foundation offers grants for residencies in Canlis for architects from all over the world. Since 2017, due to the house's small size and its actual maintenance problems, it was proposed to build an extension of Hudson's masterpiece, adding 2 more studio and research pavilions, as well as a pier to provide an access from the sea. Let me show you this model so as to understand better the main idea of our proposal. As you can see, the new intervention is located in the western part of the house, next to the outdoors dining room. The project is inspired by the different orientations of the pre-existing buildings, the regular geometries of the enclosing walls, and the selected curved furniture that Hudson introduced inside the house's volumes. The proposal explores the contrast between the free-flowing shapes and the strict orthogonal forms. The idea is to build 2 domes inside the square floor walls, maintaining a close relationship with Canlis plan configuration. The slope to the pier is produced by different amphitheaters carved in the cliff's topography, creating not only a descent to the sea, but also an open-air conference hall. There would be a formal and constructive relation between the dome's hemispherical shape and the amphitheater's semicircular forms. Both the enclosing walls and the slope to the sea are built of Marais stone masonry, the same material that Hudson chose for his house, increasing the relationship between the old construction and the new intervention. Also, the concrete domes contrast with the outside Marais walls, alluding to the tension produced between interior space and exterior space in Canlis. Well, this is an experimental model we did, and now I'm going to explain the interior space. The perfectly curved shape of the dome is interrupted by a cubic skylight that lights up the interior space. Each face of the skylight is made of different colored pieces of glass. Inside, the mix of these colors produces pure white light and creates an atmosphere based on light's composition. Now I'm going to show you how this mix of lights work. The red, blue and green light, when mixed, produce pure white light. This would be the essence of our project.
Pamplona is such an historical city, full of emblematic buildings, but its needs have changed through the years. The project, designed in 2017, consists in creating a library which contains multiple cultural uses and provides a high-quality public space to the city. The site is located between the General and Real Archive of Navarra, one of the most emblematic buildings of Spanish architect Rafael Moneo, Navarra's museum, and the river. In the search to find a proposal, the project has reached so many phases until the final project was designed. The result is a steel box of 625 square meters, surrounded by 975 square meters, containing public space. The building has a fully public character, and it includes 2 libraries, cafeteria, and some workspaces. The structure of the building is a glazed curtain wall with a nature-reminiscent steel double-skin facade, which has multiple holes and some plants grow inside them. At night, the library illuminates the plaza, located at the south, the most important public space. The building itself is visible from the nearest street and from the other side of the river, where the light is mixed with the vegetation spread on the north side of the construction. This scheme has 2 doors open to the plaza, creating an access. The first floor contains the cafeteria, the children's library, a reception, and a workspace. The scheme is not visible from the inside, as it is a structure, metallic pillars soldered to the beams. The main room, the adult library, is commuted with this floor by a huge steel stair open to the second floor, which also contains a 4-floor glazed box where the shelves are located and also commuted with some independent little stairs. The area around this volume creates the workspaces. This project not only contributes with public uses and space into the city, but also adds a new perspective of Pamplona's landscape.
Good morning, Miguel.
Hello, Laura.
Can you tell us about your project? What was the brief for this project?
The professor brief in 2017 was clear. Create an extension of the Opera House in Sydney with new uses such as an arts academy, a new rehearsing auditorium, and a student residence. In the search to meet this brief, my project brought together different opportunities provided by the site. By opposing a new volume to the front staircase, the pre-existing square is intensified. At the same time, I propose a new connection to the Royal Botanic Gardens by modeling the current cliff to turn it into an open amphitheater with the Opera House as the stage background. The brick envelope of the building wants to reinforce the dense shadows of the floor holes that drill the facade.
There's a point there. What was the function of the facade?
The mixed-uses building combines both public and private, open and closed, light and dark spaces. All these aspects are designed by the adaptive evolution of the main front hall of the auditorium. The west facade, for the residents, uses cavities as a place to meet for students with great natural light, whilst the east facade uses them as a sound amplifier to give concerts from the classrooms towards the street, to show their abilities to the public. Whilst brick protects the building from the outside, wood in the interior is used as if it was a sounding board.
Sorry to interrupt you, Miguel, but have you forget something? The general structure is based on reinforced concrete, and to cover the auditorium, several 50 meters long trusses they require.
True, and also the foundation needs to be placed deep in the ground due to the silted soil of the Sydney Bay. This project aims to relight the flame of Hudson Opera House by enclosing it with a framing building that puts it into value without disturbing the harmony of the white shell structure.
Nice to meet you, Grahan.
Nice to meet you too.
Could you tell us about your project in Albacete?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much, Laura. I am delighted to talk to you about our project in Albacete. The aim of this project is to propose a new library for the city. The building has been conceived in 2016 as a spectacular geyser. I will start with some general information about the project. When we studied the city, we saw a lack of public spaces for people to meet. In order to achieve the requirements, the library takes place in the block in a respectful attitude toward the surroundings. The privileged location above the river in a high position near some of the most important buildings in the city is one of the most valuable conditions, along with the unusual shape of the plot. These conditions were at the same time challenging and interesting because they determined the main ideas of the project. The design reformulates the concept of traditional libraries, focusing on the views, articulation, and open spaces that would allow the people to enjoy an amazing and relaxing experience. Once I have said that, I would now like to move on to the context and outside organization of the building. The library stands in a plot with different height levels following the natural slope of the hill, which is also reflected in the inclination of the two roads that surround the emplacement. This characteristic of the land allows to set different levels on the library. The highest one exceeds the limits of the plot above the wall that surrounds the other two edges pointing out to the river. Two different volumes are proposed in order to separate the children's area from the adults one.
Don't you think it would be better if there was just one single volume for the library? Why did you split it?
I think a library is a public building where people go to relax, rest, and enjoy a good book or a magazine. As I see it, although everybody loves kids, they have different needs. They enjoy their time playing and making a lot of noise, which makes them a source of stress. That is why I decided to separate both spaces. The gateway of the children's building is placed in the highest part of the plot and allies with the road. The other building entrance is placed in the semi-buried level and has its access from the plaza that the shape of the building generates and embraces the visitors. The biggest floating body is supported by a massive concrete column that works as a huge kneecap.
Sorry to interrupt you, Raquel, but don't you think that kind of structure will not be enough to support that building?
There is another support with a V shape in the opposite side that also preserves the horizontal views of the lower level. And all the calculations have been done so that there won't be any problem with the structure. The concrete column working with the V support is big enough to put up with the floating volume. Well, as I was explaining, the facade is composed of curtain steel panels, a material that creates a unique rhythm due to the fact that no panel is the same as another and matches the colors of the surroundings. It also opens to the outside by a panoramic window in the same specific parts in order to contemplate the landscape covered by a metal lattice. The private part of the building is buried, taking advantage of the different heights. This level is a semi-public private level depending on the part of the slope you are in. In the library, 4 transparent rounded top lids bring the daylight in and illuminate the broad center space, while a glass sliding wall that opens to a buried court provides light to the external part. The light of the north is collected in the largest windows. The program of the library is distributed, placing the 2 reading rooms in the 2 lower levels, with the offices, the book storage room, the atelier, and the archive, and the children's library and the cafeteria on the first floor. The top level is reserved to an open and relaxing space with views. All of the levels are hewn by a shaft that contains staircases and lifts to facilitate the connections.
Excuse me, Raquel, I would like to add a point there. New technologies have forced the architecture to change and adapt to them. That is why the floating body provides the visitor with so fast and all of the technology innovations we find in them nowadays. I believe this project has the best chance to be the most enjoyable and relaxing library.
So thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to be here with you in your practice. We are delighted to have you with us today. Hope you enjoyed it. Dear audience, this is all for today. See you next week with another special guest, Hugh Jackman. Bye.
If you want to know more about our practice, please visit www.thelemonypearpractice.wordpress.com.